Good morning and welcome again to another time where we get to just share from God's precious words. In the book of Exodus, chapter 17, we read verse 11. And it came to pass when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed, and when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. When Moses held up his hand, Israel prevailed, and when he let down his hand, the enemy prevailed. A very simple but yet very powerful and profound image of the impact of prayer. Very simple but yet very profound. When Moses raised his hands towards God, when Moses stretched forth his hands towards God, things were happening for his behalf. Things were taking place in his advantage or to his advantage. Bible said for Israel prevailed when he raised his hands towards God. And then when his hand was withdrawn towards God, the enemy prevailed. This is encouraging us to not slack and to not let our hand down in the place of prayer. You see, there are going to be times in our life, or maybe you're even going through it now, where it looks as though things are dying on you. It looks as though things are not working out. It looks as though, oh wow, the enemy is conquering. You're losing grounds. You're losing people. You're losing ground. You're losing favor. You're losing opportunity. Things are not going the way they should go. And the natural response is to try and fix things as hard and as fast as you can. But I want you to understand something, that as believers we have been called to live a particular life. There is a way that things in the realms of the spirit operate. One time it looks as though Jesus was losing ground. Towards the end of his ministry, before his crucifixion, all his disciples ran away from him. He didn't have his meetings no more. Everything was going against him. The government was against him. Even his own people were not supporting him. He was taken to the grave by strangers. But you see, what people consider the end is not often the end. It's not over until God had already predetermined that it's over. And if God has not determined that it's over, it doesn't matter how it may look. What we need to do is raise our hands towards God. Because when we raise our hands towards God, we begin to prevail. We may not see it immediately, but raising your hands towards God in prayer, raising your hands towards God by faith, causes things to begin to push on your behalf. When Moses raised his hand, maybe the people thought to Moses, well, what is he doing up there? Can't he see that we are struggling to get things happening? Why is he just being lazy up there? But it was doing something that was determining what was going on. And that's what I want to encourage you today. It doesn't matter where you found yourself. It doesn't matter what emails you receive. It doesn't matter what phone call you got. It doesn't matter what messages was sent to you. I want you to lift your hands towards God in prayer by faith. Because as you lift your hands, you begin to prevail. You begin to prevail. You begin to prevail on the field. Things begin to happen to you and happen for you to your advantage. Moses lifted up his hand. As he raised his hand towards God, there was victory happening on his behalf. Don't let thoughts weigh you down. Don't let the enemy weigh you down. Don't let the devil suggest things to you. Don't let him tell you that you are not good for nothing. You're good for nothing. Don't let him tell you that you are defeated. Don't let him tell you that God has left you. God has forgotten about you. God is no more interested in your case. God is interested in the man that lifts his hands towards God. When Moses lifted up his hands towards God, the Bible said Israel prevailed. And then when he let it down, when he let those things, his hands slack, a significance of prayer when raised towards God. In the book of James, chapter 5, thank you, Holy Spirit. James, chapter 5. And verse 16. Confess your faults one to another and pray one for another, that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Elias was a man subject to like passions as we are, and it prayed earnestly that it might not rain, and it rained not on the earth by the space of 3 years and 6 months. And it prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth brought forth her fruit. Elijah prayed earnestly. Prayer changed his story. Prayer changed the circumstances. Prayer changed the outcome. It doesn't matter what it looks as though is coming ahead of you, what it looks as though you're approaching. Prayer can change the outcome. Prayer changes things. Prayer can change the outcome. How did Elijah pray? Elijah went to somewhere. He was alone with God. And he began to pray. He began to pray. And what he was praying about was affecting where he was living, the atmosphere. And sometimes we can get deceived or distracted into thinking that we have to run around and we have to do this and do that and do that to get things to happen. But something powerful happens when we get on our knees and we commit ourselves to prayer. It doesn't matter what is being said out there. It doesn't matter what people are doing out there. It's not by power, it's not by might, but by the Spirit of the living God. When we lift our hands towards God, things happen on our behalf. God is not a respecter of persons, but God honors His word. I want to leave you with that message today. You plug yourself into lifting up your hands towards God and see victory begin to show up on your behalf. God bless you and you have a beautiful and wonderful day. Hope to see you again tomorrow.